Alright gang, let's just wait for the share button to pop up so I can pop this out into the little blogosphere, etc. And then we'll get started, and I'm going to crank up my air conditioning a little bit as well, and then we'll do the access. Okay, I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, let's get this show on the road here. I'm not going to wait around for folks to join. We'll just get started. I don't have a lot of time to do this turn actually, so. Looks like I'm going to have to hold the camera yet again. I'm going to have to look at a different stand, I think. I'm trying to keep this stable. Dude, it's not one to do it. There we go. Zoom in a little bit. Okay. Let's see, where are we? 31st of July, Access got initiative. They had initiative, they missed initiative last turn, so they went second last turn. And conducted a counterattack into this hex here, which was fairly effective. They used the Nebelwerfers and artillery to DG this hex and this hex. There was 23rd Brigade forces in there. I think there were 2 battalions of tanks in there. And we killed one, forced them to retreat. Actually, yeah, it was this hex here, sorry, not this hex. And a lot of German units were DG'd. But we managed to cobble together enough elements here to put a reasonable sized attack together. You see, it's just a bunch of ash and trash crap. Bottom there, and there I go, trying to show you stuff. We knocked the board. Okay, so that was pretty successful. That pushed these guys out, which then kept everybody in supply. Those guys that were not able to get into supply situation that way were able to be fed from this direction because there's this HQ over here. And it was all rather successful. Now, to capitalize on that, we're going to have a situation here where the Germans have a back-to-back turn. So they're going to be able to flip some units over into combat mode. They might conduct an attack here, which would be painful for the Allies. And then they can also put some units into reserve, so they're ready for the Allies when they conduct their next turn. So I think this is going to be a painful turn for the Allied forces. I've already done replacements. We picked up 1 aircraft step. Well, it's actually 2 steps in Sicily 2 when you get replacements. When you get an air unit, you get 2 air steps. So I've brought 1 unit back from the graveyard and flipped 1 over on the map, and we will. And I also managed to had a rebuild as well. So I got to rebuild for 1 equipment. I don't know if you can't see that because of the blur, but this guy. So we rebuild the motorized for 1 equipment. And that's a Kampf group, so who knows how big that is, but it's got a fair amount of punching power. I see we have one viewer. Welcome. So drop a note and say hi, so I know who we're talking to. If you wish, if not, continue to lurk. All right. So that, and I've brought all the supply onto the map that I can. I'm not going to dicker around with supply at the moment too much because we have, I think, mostly enough to do what we need to do where we are at, and then at the end of the turn, I'll shuffle some supply around as needed. In fact, so one of the first things we're going to do is flip this guy over here, put him on his combat side, Flip this artillery over. 1, 2, 3, 4. We might actually push this guy up 1 to there. We need to move this supply back out of the range of the enemy. Now, 1, 6, 7. Yeah. And think about it. I'm just going to leave this guy here. I think he causes more problems being there than he does escaping for the time being. So we'll do that. Hey, look, boys. Gary, welcome. It's funny, I see two. Once again, a little foible of YouTube. All right, we're going to try and take this hex out, and I also want to disrupt as many of these stacks here as possible, so that come the allied turn, they have a degraded ability to attack me, and that buys me another turn. And once we hit August, we get a VP for every turn that we haven't lost, basically. So we're trying to buy time here now. And unfortunately, if you watch the first time I played this game, when I played the big double map version of this, Sicily, I said, you know, it's easy to just fall immediately back and try this turtle-based approach to defense. And it is pretty easy, and this is not going to be a whole lot of fun shuffling counters around, but that's kind of what we got ourselves, because in this particular game I think it fosters that behavior because there's so few units. You have divisions that are 3 steps large, and you can break them down, put breakdown units on the board, which is fine, and spread out a little bit, but it's very hard to cover all the approaches as the Axis player. Okay, so let's first up, I want to try and hit that hex, because I believe there's a large division under there as well, if I recall. So 1, 2, 3, 4 range. So we're going to hit that guy. I need to grab some things to remind myself what to do, because this might get a little involved. I know we're going to hit that stack. And then I want to put some forces into reserve. So I'm going to keep these 2 artillery units here in reserve, even though they'll probably get knocked. You know what? Let's spread them around so that yeah. So we'll do this. Okay. And then I'll use this guy this turn, and I'll put this dude into reserve. And that way it forces the allies to hit 2 different hexes to try and disrupt things. And just for shits and giggles, I'm going to pop these guys into reserve mode. And they will be kind of a reinforcement force. Was that here? I think it was. It's either here or there. I've got to pay supply for that. So I might just take that from somewhere up here. So 3T, we'll turn that into a 1. Put that back up there. Golan 73, Brad. No, is that the fast action battles game, the block game? I'm not a huge fan of that system. I've only played a little bit of it, and I did read the rules. Just didn't grab me, but that was early in my return back to wargaming, so the short answer is no. Okay, now we might actually be able to make a couple of attacks here if we're prepared to pay the price. I'm going to move this dude up to here. And push this guy back 1 because I've got too many units in that stack. And I'm going to use another reserve marker. Put this guy into reserve. but you know what? I'm going to flip him over as well. Even though he's a truck in rough terrain there, he may be able to get in 1 hex forward here somewhere to help. And I'll move him up 1 hex perhaps. I'm going to pay for him. I'll just pay for him out of here, I think. There we go. God, it's going to be messy. Here's 14 factor unit. Should get him up to the front somewhere. Like, how about right there? Yep. So let's pull him. I'm going to do, I'm just going to, 2 to there. We'll put him. So I may be able to do an attack here and an attack here. I'm not, and I've got to do artillery there. Alright. I think I've got enough factors here to conduct an attack if I DG. Yeah, okay. Alright, so that's that section. This section of the map I'm fine with. I'm leaving this, oh, they have to go into it. I'm going to move the camera because I'm a little wary of it tipping over. It tipped over just before I started the broadcast and, or live stream, whatever you want to call it, and knocked about 10 pieces, allied pieces around. I'm going to put these guys, fuel them, and put them into reserve as well. And I've got a fuel, so that's going to make that a 2 and a 1. Where's a 1? There we go. That guy back there. These guys there. All right. Not going to move anything there. Not going to move anything over on the left-hand side of the board. I can show you that over here. The U.S. did a pretty good job here of pushing guys back. I'm going to flip this dude over. In fact, I can actually move him now. And I can flip this guy over. Feeling vulnerable here. I think I might put this dude here. Maybe put this dude here. All right. Allies did do a sweep over the left-hand side and fueled up their artillery, and oh, that DG comes off that unit. And basically went around and extended the rail line control, picked up a couple of ports. They all contribute to the control of ports, will contribute to a sudden death victory for the Allies, so they're obviously still trying to achieve that, but that's a long ways to go just yet. I'm thinking this game is going to devolve into a stalemate over on this side of the map anyway, particularly if these 2 attacks go fairly well for the Germans. Okay. So that would mostly constitute the move phase. I'm going to move these trucks up here. We'll refuel them. I've got these Tiger tanks here. Oh, do I have Wi-Fi on? You know what? Let me switch my Wi-Fi network because I am on the wrong one here. There we go. That might help the situation. Okay. And these trucks, I probably just need to consolidate these trucks all up here. We'll do that. And how much supply do I have here? And do I have enough to execute the attack? I have 1 there and 2 there. That's 3. That should be plenty. But we've got to fire artillery as well. So you know what? I'll take this truck back. I'll grab an extra SP from here. Is there a 1 I can use without having to? Yes, there is. Stop sticking to my finger. Thank you very much. So we'll just ditch this here. And you know what? I'll load up another one. You know what? I'll just move these guys. Let's just do that. So there's obviously plenty of movement points to do this once and then end up back up here. And this guy will do the same thing. So now we've got a whole bunch of supply there. Those guys are up the other end of the map. Oh, okay. Well, I'm happy to tell you a little bit about the system as we go. It's just a couple of us here, so it's not a big deal. I'll talk you through stuff as we do it. So, movement phase. We've moved all the supply where we need it to be so that we can leverage it for the artillery barrages that we're about to conduct. There are air and naval barrages that can occur in the movement phase, and I'm going to look at my aircraft now and try and decide what I want to do. There is one opportunity. Actually, there's not. I don't think the Americans have anything available, or the English have anything available to intercept with. They used all their aircraft last turn in a flurry of activity, and they have not had a chance to get back into the game yet. You've got to resupply your aircraft at the beginning of your turn. So I can pretty much act with impunity, and I think all I want to do is let's focus on this side of the map, and then we'll switch over to the left. So I'm going to get out of game turn sequence, and I just better make a note of that with the marker on the board. We'll draw a line down here and coming through here. And this dude can be supplied from here because it's 8 movement points away, +1. And so that would then put us in the reaction phase. There's nothing... well, there is reaction that the Yanks or the Allies can do. What they can do is try and preempt the attacks. But that would be expensive. And here's how they would preempt the attacks. They would take some available aircraft from here. So I'd have maybe 12, 16 factors there. Oh, they could take some fighter support. So maybe this is worth doing. And they could fly over and attack one of the stacks that's threatening this group of units over here, that lone battalion and that DG, that yellow DG hex. So they could try and DG this or this hex, right? So they've only got one attack. They're going to have to go through flak, and they would also have to survive an interception. So let's try that because that might be fun. And I have to use Allied units, not Commonwealth units, non-American, because these are all Commonwealth units here. So I'm going to come in, and it looks like that's the strongest hex attacking me. But I also know that there's other forces at play here. So I'm actually going to try and I'm going to do a double whammy. If I attack this hex, that would remove the ability of the enemy to attack this. And also if they then just decided to pile in on this and use all 3 hexes. So this is probably the best place to attack. If I DG that, it prevents an attack here and prevents support there. So we're going to do that. I'm going to put these units here. But we're going to have to do this interception thing. So oh, hang on, are we in range? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Shit, we're not. Okay, so we can't intercept. Do I have any other aircraft anywhere that can intercept? No. Okay, so no intercept. Well, that's good news for the Germans. The Germans will now roll flak. They're going to survive the flak. The Allies will have to survive the flak. And they roll a 5. And there's a table, and you look at the table, and if you roll, including DRMs, up to 11, you suffer flak, and the 6 would tell me, the third die would tell me which aircraft took losses, but no one takes any losses. So this attack goes in whole, and we said it was 16 plus the 1 for the fighter, 17. So now we're going to roll for damage. It's a barrage on the barrage table, 17. He said rolling pretty crappily. He rolls a 6, and there's a 4, which will have no effect. And it was on this hex here. Now, choosing this hex, it's in rough terrain, and the size of the forces there is the equivalent of 1 regiment, which means there'll be no modification on the table. And I can tell you with a 6 on a 16 is going to be enough to disrupt it, just. So we have successfully disrupted that little force right there. These guys now fly back to their base, and they're very happy they go inactive. They did their job for the turn. Okay, so what else could they do? Well, we could use these guys off the carrier, and they could do something. Oh, I know what I could do. Now here's a choice that we have to make with the destroyers and whatnot. I can use them now to foil this attack, or I can wait and use them to support an attack, but I can only use them once in a game turn. And I think it's pretty critical that I not lose these units, so I am actually going to fire all of these here and all of these here. We're going for it. So 36, I think it is, 36 there. So let's roll the dice for that. And I rolled a 10. That's pretty good. That will disorganize those guys. What did I say? This hex, right? And then these guys are going on these guys. And I rolled an 8. And a 6 for the damage, but I don't think that's going to matter. That's going to be 30. We're going to drop it back 1. Still going to be good. What did I roll? An 8. An 8 is not good enough to get a damage result, but it is good enough to get a disorganized result. So that goes there. Okay, so now we've the Allies have very carefully and cleverly used their artillery to prevent or at least weaken an attack by the Germans. So let's pile these guys up. And I need to work out how I'm going to know they're used, so when I come back, I won't forget. All right. Oh, what a fine mess we've put ourselves in. Okay. That was a productive reaction phase. Now it's, so there was barrage, yeah, okay. So now combat phase. Well, now the Germans have to decide if they want to go to the trouble of making a very reduced attack, because when you're disrupted, or disorganized, not only does it halve your combat value, it also impacts your effectiveness. So this hex had 14 in it, and 5. So that's going to be 7 and 2.5. That's going to be 9.5 there. I'm going to write this down and keep one hand on my camera since it's being spanky. What did I say? 9.5, right? 9.5 there. And the rating on that, the best rating there is a 4, which will drop down to a 3. And let's put that guy back there. And then there was this hex that could participate. And they are halved, and they have 2, 3.5, 4.5 there. 4.5 there. Wow. Now I could also use these guys here. And they have, well, they're halved for being DG'd and halved again, I believe, for the terrain, because it's close terrain. Or is it just 1? What does a village do? Village is just 1. Okay, so it's just half. So that would be 1, 2.5, 3.5, and I would have to spend some supply just to fuel those dudes up. Did I say 3.5 there? Okay, 3.5. All right, now, does one of those guys have a... Okay. So now if we attack here, I think there's 6 in that hex, half, so it'll be 3. So that'd be a half decent attack. But before we do that, we're going to do these barrages. So let's barrage. Let's barrage this hex at 16. They might actually have a size penalty. Because it's a division. Yes, they will. That's 5 regimental equivalents. And that's going to move it... Ooh, right by 2. That was a mistake. But it's in close, so it goes back 1. So it's just right by 1. So it's 16. Gets resolved on the 17 to 24 table. Let's roll. Oh, wow. We rolled an 11 on the 16 to 24 table. 17 to 24 table. An 11. An 11. Wow. I lose a step. So we'll take a step off this guy. Wow, that's a bitch slapping if ever there was one. And they get disorganized. That's called some pinpoint artillery. And we're going to do the same thing here. That's one of the reasons why we don't want these huge divisions all piled up. So that's 2 points, 2 rees there, and there's one more there. Oh my gosh, there's 6 there. Shoot. Why did I stack those guys up like that? 6 rees. 5 up to 6. That's right 3 columns, and I'm using something back here somewhere. This guy, 16. Yeah, and that's in the open there. So they're not going to... Oh no, they're into close terrain too. Okay, so it's 3 columns back, so it's just up 2 columns, and I was on the 16 table. So we're on the 25 to 40 table. We're going to roll. This is going to be brutal. 6. Okay, that's okay. So it's just going to be disorganized. So now we're covering the map in disorganized counters. All right. So that's good shooting by these guys. They've got to pay for that. That's going to cost 6T. So I've got to pull. There's 4. And, of course, there's not another one there, is there? So now I've got to make a 1 and get 2 back. Kind of a little bit of administrivia. All right, so nice shooting. Nice shooting by these guys. So these guys fired. 29th Panzer Grenadier guys fired. They did a pretty spanky job there. Let's see. Okay, let's do this attack. I'm going to attack this hex. I got to pay for that, and now I got to work out how many guys I want to use. I think with 9, 10, 14 versus 3 or 4, 14. I think that's going to be enough. So I'm only going to use 3, 4 steps from there. I'm not going to use that stack. 3. I'm going to use 2. So this 9 there, I'm going to use 10, 11, 12. I'm going to use 12 factors to attack with. 12 factors. Versus whatever's in that hex. So that was 4 units, so that's just going to use up a full supply point. These guys have to also pay for their defense, and they'll pay for it out of here. It's going to cost them 2 for their defense. So we'll do that. And now we just roll the dice. It's got to do a surprise roll first to see if we get any surprise benefit. The margin on the surprise is eek. I've got a 3 there. 2 3s, huh? So that's a total of 3. And the rating is 3, I believe. Yep, so the effectiveness rating is of those guys is 2. So I've just got a meager +1 on the attack, on the surprise. So here we go, surprise roll. And I roll just shit. I bumped the shift. I have to roll that again. I didn't see what it was. Okay, it's 3. 9 plus 1 is just enough to get us over the hump for a regular attack to gain surprise. So it's a defense of 3 and 12 factors attacking. That's a 4 to 1 plus 3 column shifts. 4 to 1 in close terrain. 1, 2, 3. It's going to pop us up to the 10 to 1 table. So we're going to roll this plus 1. That's a cocked die. I'm going to roll it again. Same number. So that's a 9 plus 1 is 10. That's going to be a beatdown for these guys. 10 in this column is a DL102. Yeah, we're out of there. So we lose a unit. It's another tank unit. That force has been decimated. So that battalion now has to retreat 1. Did I say 1 or 2? Oh, 2. So I have to retreat 2 hexes. Shoot. Well, I'm going to have to pile up in there. That's not good. These guys can advance into the hex, and you know, quite frankly, I think we will. I think we'll push this line back up. But they are DG. Okay. Well, that's a beatdown. That is a beatdown for the Allies on that side of the map. Monty's tactics have failed yet again. So I think that's where we'll wrap up this little live broadcast. We've got the Germans in good shape over on this side of the map. They would get to remove their DGs actually for the turn, because these were all inflicted this turn, but they remove stuff at the end of the turn, so they all come off. That's the price you pay. We tried to slow that attack down and weaken it, but it didn't have the desired effect. And I think this guy is an allied unit. Yep. And this guy is actually DG, so he's going to go underneath here as well. And that, my friends, is half of the turn. Later on today, I will try and finish up the action over here. So I appreciate you tuning in, having a look. And those that were here for the live stream, appreciate it as well. Take care.